The general public defines cultural appropriation as taking from a culture or a region that is not yours and exploiting its features or characteristics for personal profit. Over the past 4 years in hip hop, we've seen Drake transform from your friendly next door neighbor rapper and Take Care with the occasional corny punchline to a mobster, street, and heavily southern and patois influenced rapper with some damn good R&B, might I add. Over the past year or so, we've been able to explain why there was such a big shift from Take Care Drake in 2011 2012 to current Drake in 2016 2017. A partial reason for this being a thick presence of writers and ghostwriters behind Drake's music. But this convo isn't about whether or not that's good or bad. It's about the cultural shift itself. The hip hop community trashes Iggy Azalea, a foreign rapper from Australia, for many things, a main one being her faking rap accents when rapping to gain popularity. The Australian born Azalea imitated a thick southern accent to create Fancy and other tracks, and people took offense. But when we listen to many of Drake's post Take Care verses, especially on If You're Reading This It's Too Late and What a Time to Be Alive, he does the same thing. He's faking foreign rap accents to gain favor, especially when it comes to the southern drawl and slang. The slang, the accent, the body language, hand movements, everything Iggy Azalea is dissed for is the same thing Drake does. When you listen to Drake rap, he doesn't really speak like that in person or in interviews, or he doesn't act like he's portraying to be in his music. So what gives? For example, on Drake's song Used To and 10 Bands and No Tellin', he doesn't really speak like he's rapping with the drawl that Southern MCs are known for. He's only rapping like that for quote unquote us. And it's not too surprising because he didn't write a lot of these songs himself. I think it's been confirmed that ATL rapper Quentin Miller helped create huge chunks of the songs Used To in 10 Bands, and he also has writing credits on Drake's song No Tellin'. But on a side note, as a fan of Quentin Miller and the Wedding Crashers, the whole No Tellin' song and flow, cadence, everything sounds like a Quentin Miller song, even the ad libs. But again, this is not about whether or not ghostwriting should be accepted in hip hop, nor is it a defense of Iggy Azalea. We're just looking at the facts. Throughout Drake's career, you might even notice that he'll try to ride very close next to a hot rapper or famous celebrity from the area that he's trying to influence, and even name drop legends from that region in his songs. This happens with both athletes and musicians. He has especially done this with Southern acts. Early in his career, Drake's name was almost synonymous with Southern acts like UGK, Bun B, Little Brother, and the man who discovered him, the legendary J. Prince. But still, this all seems like typical commercial rapper behavior, right? Drake isn't the only rapper out here faking the funk on wax and stealing waves from the South. So why is this even a thing? Why are we having this conversation? Recently, a few fairly influential underground Southern rappers, such as the Sauce Twins, have called Drake out for stealing their sauce on separate occasions. Meek Mill and Joe Budden and Diddy, allegedly, have all had riffs with Drake as it pertains to his actions in the culture. It seems that recently actors in the industry, especially musicians and underground fans from the South, accuse Drake of robbing and commercializing and profiting from their culture, which is how we define cultural appropriation. Acting cool on one hand, but then sticking them up the next. On the Drake diss track, Wake, Joe Budden raps, "You leverage your celeb, taking waves over. That's territorial takeover." Recently, Drum and other musicians associated with SoundCloud's boom renaissance expressed publicly via Twitter how frustrating it was for Drum to release Cha Cha and then have Drake's team come and basically rip the vibes of the track to record Hotline Bling, which is a great song. Drum's Cha Cha dance track was gaining huge popularity and traction online before being derailed by Drake's Hotline Bling, which used virtually the same sample and cadence in production, and which Drake also, like Drum, promoted as a dance track. Drum said, and I quote, "I feel I got jacked from my record," unquote. I mean, yeah, it's business and people are free to record what they please, and may the best record win. But it's also a culture, and culture vultures usually don't care about that latter part. Drake equals culture vulture is not an opinion or a viewpoint that is widespread right now, but it is one that I'm noticing is growing in hip hop circles, especially in the past year before the Meek Mill beef was even a thing. It's relevant again now because there has been recent bubbling in the European hip hop community, especially in London, that Drake is doing to their local rap scene, coddling, references, exposures, features, what he's allegedly done to others mentioned to profit from the grime scene popularity. UKGrime.com posted an article this past April 2016 titled "The Danger of Drake and Fake Supporters Rant." UK Grime said, and I quote, "When you skim the surface of recent events, you're left with the impression that one of the biggest, if not the biggest, names in hip-hop endorsing our scene can be nothing but good news. But when you dig deeper past the superficial photos, surprise appearances, and constant Drake BBK posts, you realize it's actually promoting a lot of the problems people who have been listening to the genre for years are moaning about." More recently, Caribbean dancehall artists such as Mr. Vegas have spoken out against Drake's sudden infatuation with the Caribbean culture after Drake tried his hand at dancehall music on his album Views with the songs One Dance, Too Good, and Controller. Mr. Vegas on Hot 97 said, "If someone is going to say we endorse this culture and do an album with almost half dancehall music, you'd expect this person to be supporting the acts that come from this culture." Vegas said on Hot 97, "If you're going to be down with this culture, one would expect you to," and this is paraphrasing, "credit our artists on the record properly." So more concerns from artists within niche culture such as dancehall and grime and southern hip hop, speaking about people getting credit, which is what cultural appropriation revolves around, getting that proper credit from where these things originate rather than just exploiting and taking all the profit. Posts on popular hip hop forum The Collie reveal a story behind Drake and Migos' classic song Versace. The thread links to an article in The Fader titled Who Will Survive When Migos Meet Big Data?, where Migos label Quality Control recalls a situation where they experienced clearance issues with Drake's OVO label after Drake voluntarily hopped on Versace. And I'll quote a little bit of that article right here. And I quote, "He talks about how good it feels to have proven wrong all the people who said Versace had only become a hit because Drake added a verse to the remix. It wasn't because of Drake," P says. "In fact," he adds, and I quote, "He's not even sure the Drake thing ended up helping that much, especially since Drake's label never gave Quality Control the clearance to sell the song on iTunes. It was a gift and a curse. Sometimes I really wish he never jumped on it. It was going to blow without him." End quote. Now let's take a breath. This conversation begs a few questions. One, what exactly is cultural appropriation? Two, isn't Drake a huge part of the hip hop culture? Therefore, how can he be a culture vulture? Is it possible? Three, is it fair to target Drake? Aren't there other and worse perpetrators in hip hop? Four, how much of the culture people fight for so dearly still exists in hip hop today? Are we fighting for something that is just an ancient relic? And lastly, is there anything wrong with Drake hopping on whatever genres and trends he wants? Doesn't he have that artistic freedom? Doesn't he have that license as an artist? On one hand, hip hop is a free, open genre created by African Americans for anyone to join and compete equally. Artists should be free to express themselves artistically, right? Sure. However, you can understand why some people would care more about authenticity in the culture than others when they have to live in the culture, when they're from the culture, and thus have to live the repercussions of the music versus simply observing it as an outsider. So, what's your take on this? Is Drake a culture vulture? Leave a comment. And more hip hop journalism at lboombip.wordpress.com. Top 5 rap website.